So I'm very excited that we had some questions about paperless W-2s. We're going to mainly talk about that right now because we're super excited about it, and I hope you guys are too. And then we're going to take care of business with some regular year-end deadlines and stuff like that. My name is Ken Fetzer, and if you want to meet the team, I'm Ken. It's definitely not Susan from the front desk. That's me at the holiday party. We have our beautiful Alexis, Diane the Witch at Halloween. And then the biggest carrot in the garden is Nick Lato in the back there. But if you call or email and talk to the tax team, this is who you're going to talk to. Okay, real quick, some notable statistics about what we've done last year. We paid out over $770 million in taxes to Uncle Sam, which is pretty astounding. It keeps growing every year, and we're going to get to $1 billion pretty soon. The great thing is that 99 cents out of every dollar we pay electronically, which is the way to go. We're very happy about that. We now file taxes in all 50 states. We were just missing Alaska last year, so Dave went out to grab just one client so we could do that. And then our e-file return ratio is like the 941s and the unemployment reports. Over 80% of those go electronically, which is fantastic. It's really just like the locals that are tough to get the e-file in, but keeping that high is great. Okay, so I've been here for almost 8 years now, and this is the biggest thing that's ever happened. There was that one day where we got an extra tray of cheesesteaks at lunch, but this, I think, takes the cake. So the way it works basically is the IRS allows employees to say they don't need to get a paper W-2, right? Well, the hard part organizationally is you have to get every single employee to read a little thing and consent to it. Like, you can't just change your company and say, hey, we're all getting electronic W-2s now. So we never really had the functionality to do this or the capability. Our platform just rolled out actually yesterday. So when employees log into their employee self-service portal, they get this message. You might have already seen it, and hopefully you've seen communication about it. But it basically says, electronic delivery of tax forms, I accept, I decline. And then it's got all the IRS lingo that's legally you have to do. So here's the message. My wife is a client of ours, and I emailed her yesterday, and I said, did you get that message, just to make sure it worked? And she said, I accepted the message. It was pretty scary looking, but I accepted it. And so they don't make it very friendly because it goes right into the IRS lingo, but hopefully they'll see electronic delivery of tax forms and say, I agree. So the big push and why we're getting the word out so aggressively is that if you want to have this happen for 2017, you have to get your employees to log into their portal. Basically, that's it. Because as soon as you log into the portal, that message pops up, and they're not allowed to proceed without clicking I accept or I decline. Real quick, does everybody, or who doesn't use employee self-service? Okay, Barbara, we'll talk later if you want. But that's good that most everybody uses. So really the mission that we see is getting the word out to the employees, because like I said, unfortunately we can't just flip a switch and all your employees get electronic W-2s. You've got to get the word out so they log in. Okay, so the quick things that we might have some questions in your head. So like we said, each employee must consent. Terminated employees, as soon as you mark them as terminated, even if they've already accepted, as soon as they go terminated, they're automatically going to get a paper W-2, right? Inactive employees, on the other hand, are treated just like active employees, where they can opt out as well. Frank got the question. This also applies to 1099s and 1095s. So when they click that one button, it's going to change all of them to electronic. And then the great thing about this is that it's one and done. Once you click it this year, you are good for next year and for future years. Okay, so most of the stuff, if not all the stuff that we're covering today, is on our new website that Andy created for us. the way to get to that is in your quick links. When you log in, it's going to say W2 alert ! That will take you right to the website. There's also going to be a banner on dominionpayroll.com, the homepage, that'll be on the top. You can go to that. But basically, it's just looks like this. Frequently asked questions, paperless urine forms, just so you can get a face to the name. Andy chose the tree background, which was ad lib, and we all agreed that it was okay. So, like I said, the big mission we see, so I guess, let's take a poll real quick. Who is like, oh, this is kind of cool, it doesn't really affect me? Who is like, oh, I'm kind of excited, it's pretty cool? And then who is like, that's not funny? Because the third option, who's like super excited about this? Fantastic, fantastic. We're in that last category. So our mission is to have you guys get the word out to your employees, because basically what we see is the big challenge is there's going to be employees that are either salary or just haven't logged in a long time, never really checked their pay stub, and they're going to get to, it's going to be January, and they're going to say, oh, I could have done this, and it's too late by then. So really the goal is to get them to log into their self-service account. And we put this slide up because in the FAQ website, we put a little sample email where you can just copy and paste it into an email and send it out to everybody, prompting them to log in. Okay, I don't know if you can see this as well, but the other big piece of this is, like I'm saying, employees that have locked themselves out or haven't logged in 90 days and their account's disabled. If you go to this screen, client management, client utilities, and then self-service management, it's basically going to show you the status of all your employees' ESS accounts. So it'll show you, hey, you've got 10 employees that are good to go. You've got 20 that haven't logged in 90 days. You've got 10 that have tried their passwords too many times and they're locked out. And the great thing about this is these boxes right here in between the view list, these boxes, if you have, for example, 10 employees that have locked themselves out, instead of going to each of those employees, you check this box and click on update accounts, and it'll fix everybody. So if you have 20 employees that haven't logged in 3 months, you check the one box, click update accounts, and then it's going to send activation emails out to all 20 employees. So it makes it really easy to attack all your employees. And the X that we put here is basically when you get to this screen, it's got one section for active and one section for terminated employees. Because terminated get paper W-2s, you don't have to worry about them. So that's just excess information. The question was, how long, when we send an activation email to the employees, how long is it good for? And the answer is 72 hours, 3 days. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for breaking from episode 4. Okay, we had this question a little earlier. So how do you know? So let's say in 3 weeks or maybe a month, you've tried to get as many employees as possible, and you want to figure out who are the bums that didn't log in and accept this. Well, right now, so December 1st, they're coming out with just a report. It's got a list of your employees. It's got the date that they consented. And then so people that don't have that date are the ones you have to go after. So December 1st, you will have an easy report. They're building it right now, and it's going to be fine. If for any reason you need one before then, basically, you can run the W-2s, your employer copies. It basically spits out where there's 2 W-2s to a page, and it's going to look like this. And I don't know if you can see, but the W-2 where somebody has already accepted has a watermark that says ESS copy only. So you can scroll down your W-2 list, and the ones that have the watermark have already taken care of business. The ones that don't are going to get a paper copy unless something happens. And so that report will be good for, you can always use that. But there is one coming out on December 1st that's going to be, it'll just have like the list of your employees. It'll be a lot shorter, more summary. What else do we have? Okay. The other thing is maybe the employee forgot what they chose, or maybe they just clicked a button real quick, didn't read the message, and like didn't care. Well, if you log into ESS and in the top left, you would click on your name, there's a new item here that says electronic delivery tax forms, okay? Everybody has that now, except terminated employees, they don't have that. So let's say, so here's the options. If you originally clicked accept, and now you click that button, it's just gonna give you a message saying, hey, you've already accepted to this, you're good to go. However, if the employee originally declined, because maybe they were too scared of what the message looked like and they just hit decline, but now they're like, oh, I want to actually do that, they click on it and it shows them the original message again, so they can then accept. So the other scenario, which is probably not going to happen, but what if an employee accepts and then for some reason they want to change their mind and they want a paper W-2? They actually cannot do that themselves. They have to contact you. I know, right? It sucks. And what you have to do is in the employee maintenance general screen, there's these new fields that says urine delivery consent date. That's the date that they consented. And then there's a field that says urine consent withdrawn date. So if they want to withdraw for whatever reason, you would have to put a date in there and it'll withdraw it, but they can't withdraw themselves. That's an IRS rule. Like, that's what they decided they wanted to happen. I'm not sure, but hopefully we don't have too many of those scenarios. So that kind of stops the paperless W-2 section, and I want to open it real quick to questions about paperless W-2 specifically. And you had a question? The question is there a deadline they have to make that option? The answer to that is they have to accept before the last payroll of the year is processed. Okay, so if it's not the check date, it's the process date. So if you have a December 28th check date, but you process it on the 25th, they've got to get it in before you hit the button. The question is, does the verbiage in the message talk about ACA forms as well as W-2s? Answer, fact. So the communications that we sent out said W-2s just to make it easier for everybody, because most of the people that affected our W-2s, we don't want to say year-end tax forms every time because people are like, what is that? And so we just said W-2s in the communication, but everything in that message is whatever the IRS requires to have the 1099s, 1095s, and W-2s. So there's a lot of verbiage in there, and it does cover you legally to give them electronic 1095s, if that's kind of the question. Sort of. Any other questions about paperless? The best way that we feel, and a lot of other service bureaus are telling their clients, is we just made up a little sample email. So if you go to that website, you can bring up a sample email and then just copy and paste it and send it out to everybody. Yeah, we can't. We can only send mass things out to payroll administrators. We can't send messages out to all the employees, although we'd like to. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about, still very important, year-end deadlines and tax information, and just as exciting. So yesterday, as we said, employees can begin to opt out of the paperless W-2s. As Katie said, December 27th is the last day to process 2017 payrolls. For the employees that will be receiving paper W-2s, we're going to start sending those out on January 8th. And then we wanted the paper W-2 people and the electronic W-2 people to kind of get everything at the same time. So that Friday, we're going to open up the W-2s for the for paperless. So one thing I didn't mention, for all your employees that accept this message, they're going to get an email on January 12th. And it's just going to say, your W-2s are ready for download. And it has a little link where they can go and retrieve the W-2s, 1099s, whatever. So that's January 12th. So if your employees are like, when am I getting my W-2s? If they're electronic, January 12th. If they're paper, between the 8th and the 26th. So we're going to start sending them out. Go ahead. We're gonna wait till after the presentation because I think we're gonna open up questions to all the speakers. That's a frank question. So January 31st, as you know, is the deadline to distribute your W-2s to your employees. So as long as you postmark it or hand it to them by then, you're good. Now the question is, what about if you have new employees that you're starting with you and you set them up, are they going to get this message? And the answer is yes. So we're defaulting all new clients, new employees. So say you hire a new employee and you give them, you get their email address and you send them the activation email. The first time they log in, the first thing they see is that message. And right off the bat, they can go green. Forest background. So tax updates, Social Security wage base is going up to $128,700. 401k contribution limits is going up $500 to $18,500. And simple IRA contribution limits is staying static at $12,500, I believe. That's correct. Social Security and Medicare, nothing's changing. One thing to note, if you don't know, is the additional Medicare sometimes throws people off at the end of the year. If you have high earners, once people hit $200,000, they have to pay an additional 0.9% of Medicare. I know you guys probably already hit that in June, so you're very familiar, but the employee portion of Medicare goes up and the employer portion doesn't. So some people are like, why are my employee and employer Medicare taxes different? And that's the reason. Third-party sick pay, the big thing here is to make sure that the insurance company is not issuing the W-2. When you send the third-party sick pay wages to us, we put it on the W-2 automatically. So if you do have third-party sick pay, one good quick phone call or email to your insurance company, just making sure that they are not issuing the W-2 would be wise. It just prevents double reporting. Go ahead. The question is if the employer pays for the premiums. Okay. Yeah. One thing to note is if the employee is paying for these third-party sick pay premiums, like the employer doesn't cover, the employee is paying their premiums out of their paycheck, those wages are non-taxable because they're viewing that as that the employee already paid taxes on it. And that means you probably get a report and it'll be under the non-taxable benefit column or some kind of thing informing you that, hey, your employee paid the premiums on this insurance plan. They don't have to report any wages on the W-2. But that's a great question. I think I repeated it before. For large employees, we still have to do the ACA reporting. Thanks, Frank. Over 250 W-2s last year, you have to do the employee and employer healthcare premiums. Again, this is information only. It's so employees can see kind of the benefit they're getting that they don't see on their paycheck, you know. And then some year-end reports that you can run for the rest of the year that are great to look over is the employee W-2 preview report, the verification report, the exceptions, and the year-end exceptions. So all of these can be found right in the report archive. So one thing I do want to note here is that if you're not running the exceptions report every payroll, throughout the whole year, then I would advise that you start doing that. It catches a lot of little things that can be caught and fixed quickly until they manifest into prior quarter adjustments and stuff. So every time we have to run a payroll, during preview payroll, we click the exceptions report. And I would suggest getting in the habit of doing that if you're not doing it already, because it's got a lot of things that can be caught and fixed before you run the payroll. Including tax IDs, negative wages, variances, duplicate social security numbers, stuff like that. The employee W-2 preview report basically just shows you what the W-2s are going to look like. That's good to go over just to see if there's any blatant errors, like if you notice a social security number is all zeros or something. You know, these kind of things happen, so just scrolling through that. Verification, again, you're looking for most of the stuff the employee is going to have to verify, but you can look over for obvious errors, stuff that you can kind of tighten up before we get into January. And then I think most people know, but when the quarterly reports come out, like the 941s and the state unemployment report and stuff like that, you can access those under reporting, quarterly reports on demand. And those stay out there forever. So if you have like an audit next year and they say, give me all your payroll for the last year and a half, you can just go here, click download file, and has everything that they need for the most part. And I think, okay, so our tax email is tax@dominionpayroll.com.